morning, everybody. Welcome to UN Women and NAMA Women Advancement Establishment session on branding essentials. And today we're joined by Maya Itani, who is a branding expert, and she has a branding company. And she has a fantastic 2-hour workshop that she's going to take you through everything that you need to do to create a brand for your business. Before we get started, just as we do with every session, I'm going to take you through a couple of really quick housekeeping points just to cover off the session. If we could just have the next slide, please. So you're going to be joined by myself, who's going to be the moderator. And if you have any questions or anything that you want to know, could you please put it in the chat box? What I typically do is I pick up all of the questions that you have within the session. And because we're going to have probably well over 200 participants today, it will be a little bit challenging if everybody unmutes themselves and speaks. So if you could please put your questions in the chat box, I'll try to group them and I'll try to get them and ask them to Maya when we're speaking about that specific section. And then we'll also have a Q&A at the end as well. And I'm going to get Maya to introduce herself a little bit later, but I think all of you know me. I'm Jen Blondos and I'm a consultant with UN Women as well. So next slide, please. I have something exciting I want to tell you. First time this is being announced, and we, UN Women, are creating a women-owned business directory. So this is super, super exciting because what we want to be able to do is to provide more opportunities for women-owned businesses to connect with companies who would like to be able to purchase their products or their services. So we are sharing with you today a link that you will be able to have access to, that you can go and fill in details about your business, your products, your services, and then that list is going to be compiled and shared with other organizations who want to join, who want to buy products and services from women-owned businesses. Just to be clear though, one of the areas about this is that it needs to be a woman-owned business. So what that means is that it has to be 51% female owned and controlled. Now, I know most of your businesses are already like that, but just to explain, so some of you might say, well, I have a local partner, so how would that work because they own 51%? It's also, if you have a local partner, that would mean that if more than 25% of those shares with the local partner are women owned, that would mean as well that you would qualify for a woman-owned business. But you do need to have a trade license within the UAE. So my colleague Hiba is going to be sharing the link a few times throughout this session, and then you'll also be getting an email this week as well. So if you are a woman-owned business, please do fill in the form because it's a great opportunity for you to have your products or your services shared with other organizations who want to buy from women-owned businesses. So that's our exciting news this week. So if we could just go to the next slide, please. There we go. As always, we love it if you share. If you can share the session, share your thoughts, you can take screenshots, you can stick this up on social media. Here are all of the links for you to be able to connect with us on social media. Please, you'll also see throughout the presentation, we will have details about how you can tag us on Instagram because I know a lot of you are putting lots of stuff up on Instagram. So please do share. Next slide, please. Right, we love our polls over here at UN Women. So we would love to know from you. There's a poll which is going to just pop up right now. Before we start today's workshop, we would love to know how knowledgeable you are about building your brand. So Hiba, if you could please launch that poll for us, please. Just take 1 minute, if everybody could please fill that in. Okay, I'm going to launch the poll. Here we go. Oh. And there's a second question on there that we'd like you to answer, which is when is the best time to work on your company's branding? So if you could just take the next minute and fill that in, and then we're going to jump right into branding. And actually, while that continues and everybody answers, Maya, why don't we kick off with you introducing yourself to everybody so we can just get the session going as quickly as possible as well. And then we'll come back to this poll.
Absolutely. So good morning, everybody. I am so excited to be here. Thank you to Nama Women and UN Women and Jen for inviting me to run this session to talk about my absolute favorite topic in the entire world, which is branding. So I am the managing director of Itani and Company Marketing Consultants, and we are specialized in building brands that build businesses. When we say that, it's because we truly believe that when a company has a solid brand foundation, that has an immediate return on investment for them. It is not a fluffy thing that you do just because it's a beautiful aesthetic or that you tick a box. There is an actual business case for building a strong brand. So I've been doing this for 15 years now. I launched my own firm in 2015 because after working in corporates prior to that, I wanted to bring the same style of marketing and branding that is done at the global level to homegrown businesses in the UAE, because there are so many wonderful businesses here, so many passionate entrepreneurs, and they're excellent at what they do. They're experts at what they do, but they can't also be experts accountants and expert marketers and expert branders. And so it was really to help bring that foundation to homegrown businesses and help them not face a wall when it comes to branding and marketing. Our clients range from everything from solopreneur startups all the way to multinationals. So very diverse, all sorts of industries, and every project is exciting because one of the wonderful things about working with people like yourselves who found businesses is that the passion is palpable, is there's a real, there's just a fire that really exists within people like you. And I know that it feels like a slog a lot when you're running a business, and that you feel like a lot of times you're hitting a wall. So that's why groups like this are absolutely wonderful and take advantage of these fantastic resources to keep going, and the groups and the network around you. So,
absolutely, Maya. Let's have a look at the poll. I'm going to end the poll just so we can have a look at that. It's interesting that most people have kind of an average or not that much knowledge, but we do have about maybe 35% of people who have good to very good knowledge. And sometimes as well, even if you have good or very good knowledge, it's nice to be able to watch these sessions because we can always learn and maybe just even fill in the gaps of a few areas that maybe you haven't thought about that you and your colleagues have been working on with branding as well. And it's also nice to see too that most people are saying that they think that the best time to work on your company's branding is before launching a business. And it is so important because in my years of business, the one thing that I've realized is if you have a solid brand, that's almost like the foundation that you build your business house on, and you can hang everything else on top of that. But oftentimes we get so caught into having our business and all the different things we need to do to set up our business that we forget, and we'll be like, oh, I'll just do a logo. Oh, I'll just like pick out some colors I want to have. And then 5 years later might go by and you realize that you don't have a brand and it's not organized within your business. So
yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times people, we get clients who come back after being in business for 10 years. They may have launched when the market was unsaturated, and without branding, it was fine because there weren't competitors. But then 10 years later, you come back and find you need to be differentiated.
100%. And I think as well that customers are really expecting that now as well, that customers and clients don't always, it's not just about the quality of the service or the product, but also the whole package. So I'm so excited to bring this to everybody. So let's kick it off.
Fantastic. Okay, so as I go along, there are currently 152 of you in the room. So as much as I would have loved to interact, like Jen said, over the microphone, we're going to be using the chat box a lot. So please do not be shy. And Jen will be sharing important questions with me and also important answers, because as we go along, I will be asking you a few questions as well. And the first one, the most important one, I think today, is to get kind of a clear understanding between us of what is a brand. So I really would love to hear from you, if you would just type in the chat box, when you hear the word brand, how do you define that? So pop it in there. DNA of your business. Identity, business image, clear identity. Okay. Immediate recognition. Definitely good brands give you immediate recognition. A representation of who you are, your values and services. Values, mission and vision and target audience. Ooh, someone's been doing their homework. Your space in the industry. Aesthetic identity. Aesthetics do play a factor for sure. Unique selling point. Oh, we're going to talk about unique a bit later and my viewpoint on being unique. Must represent us. Sorry, they're going so fast. I'm trying to open this to make it bigger. The
Lots
what
of
and why
ideas.
of my company. Yeah. Okay, fantastic. So definitely a lot of good nuggets there to start us off, and all of which play into branding. But in my 15 years of being in this field, I'm trying to move the videos out of the way. This is absolutely the hands down best definition I have ever come across for branding, and it is one that we use as our basis. So a brand is a concept surrounding a product or service that evokes certain emotions, associations, and expectations. What does that mean? It means that when a brand is strong, when we hear that brand name or see that logo, we have an instant reaction. And one of the strongest local examples I can say is Emirates. So when you hear the Emirates jingle music, you automatically know that this is Emirates Airline. When you see their font, even if the Emirates logo is not there, the Emirates font is so incredibly distinctive. And you have a range of emotions about that. You have a range of emotions about travel, about being pampered on a flight, about, being, if Dubai is your home, all of those things. And so that is the culmination of all the different brand points and touch points that they have built. This isn't done through one advertisement. This isn't done through one interaction that they have with the customer. It is an entire concept that they are building. They are messages that they are sending out at so many different touch points that create this concept that gives you that instant reaction, the association and expectation. And now the important thing to note is that it's not always positive. So sometimes we will hear a brand name or see a logo and go shudder and cringe. And that's really important to know, because while today, what we're going to work on is how to build your brand and how to build your brand foundation. At the end of the day, your brand exists in the mind of your consumer. And if there's one thing you remember from today, it's that. It's that we can work as hard as we want at putting out messages, at keeping things consistent. And that's really the effort that we can put in. But how our customers perceive us from their own experience is what our brand is going to stand for. And that's why being a brand guardian and really being mindful of how your brand is built is completely essential. If we allow things to kind of, we created a logo, we're just going to, do our job, we're going to create our product, maybe not train people who work for us very well, things go off the rail really, really quickly, because sometimes one bad interaction, one campaign that is a bit tone deaf or different kind of things can really set a brand off track. So what I'm going to do to see your instant reactions is I'm going to put a logo up on the screen, and I want you to type the words or instant reaction that comes to mind with that logo. Okay? So first, Red Bull. Energy. Yep, energy, vivid, events. Strength, flying high, for sure. Bad stuff. So see, there you go. Somebody had a negative reaction to it. Fantastic. So as we can see, something for men. Oh, interesting. Okay. As we can see, Red Bull has a really, really strong brand focused around the topic of energy. But actually, Red Bull does not focus on the functional part of their drink. They don't actually, their advertisements say Red Bull gives you wings, and I'm sure all of you have seen the cartoon ads. But if you notice, the cartoon advertisements and the spend on advertisements that Red Bull does is so minimal compared to where they spend on everything else that builds into creating this adrenaline-soaked vibe that they are known for. They sent a guy to the edge of the stratosphere and he jumped back down to earth. They sponsor F1 teams. They do the jet racing in Abu Dhabi as well. So many things that build slowly in our minds this association, Red Bull, energy, adrenaline, high impact, none of which talks about the drink itself. So that's really important to know, because when Red Bull avoids the functional aspect as part of their main messaging, it's intentional. That's not an accident, because all of its other competitors are focusing so hard on functional, the functional difference between them and Red Bull. But I'm sure most of you can't actually name more than maybe one competitor in the energy drink sector, because Red Bull just owns it. All right, next one is the golden arches. Doesn't even have to put a name up there. What do you see? Not healthy, junk, fast food, happiness, junk, yum, unhealthy. It is so interesting, the shift with this logo. So 10 years ago, put the golden arches up and most people would say things like delicious, happy childhood memories, things like this. More and more now, when I put this logo up, I have these reactions, which is junk food, negative, I wouldn't eat it, I wouldn't put that on, it's unhealthy, etc. And this also goes along with consumer education. So as a brand, it's really important for us as brand guardians, it's really important for us to keep an eye on how consumer education is evolving, what consumer expectations are. So consumers are expecting us to be able to put out healthy food at good prices, not just junk food at good prices. So you've seen, you know, McDonald's has tried to introduce salads, often which the salads have more calories than their burgers. So that's a bit of a myth. McDonald's has been known to be, people think it's not hygienic or that it's too junky or that maybe they don't include the best ingredients. So they introduced globally an open kitchen policy in which you can request to walk into any McDonald's kitchen at any time and see how the staff work. I've never actually tested it, but that's what they've done because they wanted to counter these negative perceptions that consumers have. And that is just a tool they have. They can't go to into your mind and change your mind. So they have to continue to put out these small messages, change their product offering, help you to potentially come back to seeing McDonald's as a positive food offering. That may never happen, and they still have plenty of customers, because actually one of the most notable things in the branding world is that they say that if every physical McDonald's worldwide burned down, there's still more value in the brand identity, these golden arches, than in all of the physical venues worldwide, which is just, I mean, that's flabbergasting. So they still have a very strong brand, but they're not slacking, and they are trying to counter this idea that that the food is too unhealthy for today's world. Now we go to a local brand. When you see this, what do you think? 3G, okay. We're up to 5G now. Mobile service, frustrating, trustworthy, poor service, communication. Bad customer service, bad, okay. Amazing customer service, fantastic. Okay, nothing great. All right. Expensive and bad service. So, Etisalat is one of the largest advertisers in the UAE. They spend millions of dollars on TV ads, YouTube ads, outdoor advertisements, billboards, lampposts, everything. But what Etisalat for years was ignoring is that you cannot simply advertise being the best and say, I'm the best and we have the best service and we have the most competitive prices, and ignore the fact that the consumer experience is so different. So I've been in the UAE for 15 years, and I've been an Etisalat customer the whole time. And when I first started with Etisalat, it is incredibly expensive and it was frustrating, and you couldn't get an appointment at home for 2 days. They would say they're coming and they don't show up. And so, like many of you, I built this negative perception about Etisalat because of these touch points, because of these experiences that I had with them in the interactions. No amount of advertising could counter that. However, in recent years, I still harbored this negative feeling. I still was a customer because, sometimes it's harder to change numbers. I still harbored this negativity. And then I started to realize, actually, the service has gotten much better. Actually, they come when they say they're going to come now. They show up. It doesn't take 3 days to get them to come out to check your internet. They come within the day. And I started to realize that there had been a clear directive, a clear mandate internally to improve these frustrations. But me as a customer, I had harbored such negativity that it took so long and so many positive interactions for me to even think, hey, well, hold on a second. It's actually not that bad anymore. And that's an important lesson, is that once a customer has gone to perceiving you negatively, the amount of effort that it takes to get back to the positive side is exponentially more than it takes to now, from the very beginning of launching your brand, managing your brand mindfully and positively so that they have positive experience with your brand. Okay, so let us move on. So I always love to talk about brand myths. I won't spend too much time on them. I love to chat. So hopefully I'm going to run through these a little bit quickly so we can get to the real meat of today's presentation. The first one, I was chatting with Jen about this before all of you hopped on, is that it's been 6 years now since I've launched my firm. And 6 years ago, people would regularly come to us asking, can you do my branding? And what they would mean is, can you make my logo? Not even like the full branding package, just the logo. And what we had to do is we had to really counter that and explain that a brand is so much more than a logo. A logo is important, but a logo is a manifestation of what the brand is. A logo is the reflection of the brand strategy. A logo is one of the tools that we use, one of the touch points that we use to help convey a message. It is not our brand on its own. And it shouldn't be blue because you like blue. And it shouldn't have, it shouldn't necessarily have a cow on it if you're a milk, brand. So there are a lot of things. Logos are incredibly important and visuals are incredibly important. One of you mentioned that the aesthetic is important. However, a logo is always and should be known as secondary after you create your strategy. I think someone has unmuted themselves. If you've unmuted yourself by accident, can you kindly unmute yourself? Thank you very much.
I've got it, Maya. I'm jumping in on it.
Cheers. All right. Brands are only for large corporates. So many a time after having the initial conversation of, well, yes, we can make your visuals, but we have to do your brand strategy first. We get the objection that, well, I'm not a big enough company to make a brand. I'm not large enough yet to really care about branding. I just need a visual because I need something to print on the bags. I just need a logo because I need to make letterhead. Branding is, I'm glad most of you are aligned with this because you answered in your polls that the best time to work on branding is before you launch your business, because it really sets the course for everything you're going to do. And it actually keeps you from going off on tangents. When you launch a business, you will get opportunities that come your way every day. Some are great, and some are really tempting, but may take you off the path of what you're actually trying to build. So creating a strategy for your brand and a foundation for your brand from the very beginning is kind of like a compass, and it keeps you on the right path, and it makes sure that you are actually building brick by brick to get to where you want to go, rather than just allowing the flow of the river to take you to a random destination. So brands are definitely not only for large corporations. Every company, big and small, is a brand. And if you are unbranded, you are a commodity. And that's the reality of it. And also, the thing is, we go into the next one. I can't afford to invest time or money into branding. You actually can't afford not to invest time or money into branding because, as I mentioned earlier, a brand exists in the mind of your consumers. So if they've had any interaction with you, they're going to have some sort of idea about you. It could be that you're unmemorable. It could be that it's meh, I have no positive or negative feelings about you. But if you don't actually invest that time or money into it, you're going to allow that to free fall, and you're going to allow them to fully control what your brand stands for. And the thing is, you can't just decide not to have a brand. And a good example is Muji, the Japanese retail company. I don't even know how to describe it. But Muji was actually founded by an entrepreneur who hated brands, and he hated the obsession with brands. And so the word Muji is a derivative of a Japanese word or phrase that means high quality, unbranded goods. And the goal for the store is that everything is unbranded, everything is simply of high quality, and you only come there for the quality. You don't come there for the brand. Lo and behold, Muji became a worldwide brand that stands for high quality goods. So even though he set out purposely, to counter brand culture, he unwittingly created a brand that stood for high quality unbranded goods. And it is a recognizable brand worldwide today. So whether or not you like it, you're going to have a brand, and you should probably take the time at least to invest in thinking about the kind of brand you do. And so a lot of the work we're going to talk about today is creating your brand strategy. And while it is always, of course, the ideal to engage with a brand strategist or a brand consultant on a topic like this, if you there are lots of resources. A session like this today can help you at least start to think about this yourself. And if you do want to bootstrap, you still can do the work on your own at home, and it won't cost you money, but it will cost you time. And that's really, really well invested time. A brand is only built through advertising. So this is something that is a big fallacy, because advertising is one touch point. And if you go back to the It's Love example I gave, it's a perfect example. You cannot counter negative experiences through advertising. And it is simply one more tool that you have to build your brand. If your product let's say I used to work for Nivea, the skincare company, and if our products were sticky, they didn't deliver on their promises, the packaging would break, we didn't look good on the shelves, no amount of advertising would counter that. So advertising is one touch point, but is not the only touch point you have. So if you don't have budget for advertising, fear not. There are lots and lots of tools that you can use that won't cost you the same as, renting out a billboard on Sheikh Zayed Road. My brand is for everyone. So there is a meme that floats around every once in a while, and I love it. It says, stop trying to please everyone. You're not Nutella. And it's really interesting for me because the premise there is that everybody loves Nutella, and that's the only thing that everybody can agree is wonderful. But the reality is not everybody loves Nutella either. So even something like Nutella is not a brand for everyone. And this idea that we encounter a lot of times entrepreneurs or leadership teams that say, but anyone could use our brand. Anyone could drink our milk. Anyone could, come to our auto repair shop. Anyone could, but who will is the question. And who should you target is really, really important as well. And my favorite myth is my brand is unique. I'm really sorry to say, I would say 99% of companies are not unique. And if they are unique, sorry, just plain, if they are unique, they're not going to be unique for long. So even Tesla, which is, I think, always pointed out as a very unique company because they launched, an electric sports car, which was not really available. There's currently competition for Tesla sports cars now. They're not unique anymore. So this obsession with being unique, this concept of the unique selling proposition, I call it a big myth, because I find business owners are so obsessed with what is my USP? What is my USP? And in reality, unless you're the electricity and water company, you're not unique. You're not the only one in the market. And in this connected digital world, people can always copy what you're doing. The goal here is to be ubiquitous, to be synonymous with whatever it is that you want to be known for. It doesn't have to be that you're the only one doing it. And go back to thinking about Red Bull. Red Bull is not the only energy drink, but Red Bull is synonymous with its industry. And so that is the absolute goal you should be working towards, and not this idea of being unique. Okay, so Jen, do we have any questions to tackle before moving on?
No, there's nothing so far. So lots of people are just saying nice things. So we're all good.
Okay, super. I really wish I had multiple ways of focusing and being able to chat with you guys while I'm talking. A couple of statistics before we actually launch into getting into the nitty-gritty of starting a brand foundation. And branding, like I said, is not something that you do for fluff. It's not something you do to tick a box. It has an actual tangible impact on your business. So according to QIQ International and Saatchi, they did a study, and they found that growing love and respect for your brand can grow purchase intent by up to 7 times. So when a consumer loves and respects your brand, it grows their intention to purchase from you by 7 times. And you can do that in so many different ways. You can do that by prominently speaking up for a cause that they care about. Think about Lush, that is politically active in so many topics. And, while I may not need Lush's raw soaps and their other products, their bath bombs, I have much more purchase intention for this brand because they align with my values politically, or even as a human. So that is really important to know, that when people respect and love you, they will want to buy more from you. And I also give the example, go back to Emirates. Emirates is one of the most expensive airlines in the world. And yet, not because they often have the best timings, they don't have the best prices sometimes, they don't have the best, sometimes it's just the overall actual product doesn't suit what I need. But because I love the brand so deeply, it has such a connection for me as someone who's lived in Dubai for so long. I want to purchase from Emirates. I want to support Emirates. I have that love and the respect for the brand. And that goes into the next point, which is that 64% of consumers cite that shared values as the primary reason they have a relationship with a brand. And this is a study done by the Harvard Business Review. 64% of consumers say that if a company shares its values, that they will have, that's the primary reason to have a relationship with the brand. So a lot of times when we do brand strategy work, sometimes people will think, well, what's the point of doing brand values? It's just an internal exercise. It's not an internal exercise. If the values are clear to consumers, if it's apparent what you believe in as a company, what you stand for and what you don't stand for, those who believe like you do will gravitate towards you. And there are multiple examples of companies that have taken stances on different topics, whether it be Black Lives Matter, whether it be Palestine, whether it be different topics, that they take these stances and will alienate a lot of people, but will also attract a lot of people. So that's really important to remember. And the final one, the final stat that I want to share today is that 82% of investors believe that brand strength and name recognition are becoming more important in guiding them in their investment decisions. This is from PitchBook and Reuters. So what that says is that even if a lot of people still think by this point, branding is a bunch of malarkey, I just want to create a good brand, I want to create a good company, I want to have good operations, I want to have good revenue. My numbers need to look good because I want to exit later. Like I don't care about creating a brand that makes me feel warm and fuzzy. Well, when it comes to actually being valued, when you're looking to exit, your brand strength is going to play into that valuation. And if you don't have a recognizable name in your industry, that is going to impact the valuation that your investors or the people who are going to buy your company will assign to it. And even I had an example of a local factory, a food factory, where I was speaking with the owners, and one of their partners had exited, and the valuation that they came with, the auditor said, had you actually worked on creating a stronger brand, you would have had a stronger valuation. So this is something that even will impact the financial value of your company. Okay, so today, a lot of what we're going to talk about, we've been talking about branding for a lot. What is a brand? And what I'm going to get into now is part of the brand strategy, creating a brand strategy. And one of the main questions I get about this is, does that mean it's a marketing strategy? What is a brand strategy? So in the chat box, let me know what you think the difference is between a branding strategy and a marketing strategy. Okay.
Can you see it, Maya, or do you want me to call it out for you?
I can see, but I don't see anymore. I see what, who, and what. Marketing should be part of your branding. They're part of the same world. Okay. Anyone else have any ideas about the difference? Okay, it's a big difference. Okay. What you are versus how you will do it. Nice, Carrie. Very simple, just to the point. Okay, branding is about how you position the brand. Marketing is how you push it out. Okay, good. We're on the right path. So essentially, a brand strategy is saying, this is my destination. This is my goal. And that is something that you create and can be valid and unchanged for 5 years, sometimes 10 years. It is really the document or the strategy that guides the company forward year on year on year. The marketing strategy is the roadmap. is saying, okay, we've established that this is our goal. This is how we want to be perceived. This is what we want consumers to think about us when we are, this is what we want to stand for. How do we now tactically implement that over the 7Ps, which many of you know: price, product, place, promotion, all that lovely stuff. So that's more tactical when it comes to actually what bricks do we have to lay to build the wall that we want to create? What road do we want to take to get to that destination? I could come up with analogies and metaphors all day long, but basically, I think a lot of you have it right, is that branding is how we want to be perceived. Marketing is how we actually get that perception there. We can't just put something in a lovely PowerPoint and say it's our strategy and call it a day, and save it and then expect consumers to know. That's why marketing and branding go hand in hand, but they are not synonymous. It's really important to know the difference. So what are the pillars of a brand strategy? So for our purposes today, I'm going to give you an overview about what goes into a brand strategy, but then I'm going to really focus on one part of it, which is called the brand positioning statement. And we're going to break that down in detail and do some exercises because I have 2 hours today with you, and there's just so much I want to share. So first of all, target audience is the first thing. Who are you doing this for? Because if you're only doing this for you and the 5 people in your friend circle that think it's interesting, that's probably something you can do as a hobby and not as a business. Who are you doing this for? What do they care about? All of those questions are really, really incredible and important to answer. Market definition. So frame of reference. This seems really simple. I run a cafe, but we're going to get into later why being very specific about your market definition or your frame of reference is very helpful to kind of putting your head down and focusing on your business. The brand positioning statement, which we will really dig deep into, which is, I would say, the most important sentence you will ever write for your business. I'm a little bit biased because I'm a brand strategist, but this sentence is one that not only leads your branding and your marketing and all of that part of your business, but really will influence operational decisions as well. The brand experience. How do we want people to feel when they interact with our brand? How do we want people to, what are those emotions, associations, and expectations that we want to build into our brand? What is our mission? What is our vision? And there's a difference between those two. And because we're not going to really dive deep into mission or vision, I'll just share the difference between those two right now, because a lot of times it's perceived that they're interchangeable, which they're not. They're close, but they're not interchangeable. So a vision is this really lofty, ambitious goal that you will never, ever be able to achieve. But you are going to do your best and work your hardest to get there your entire existence, the entire existence of this company. A vision has to be incredibly challenging, big thinking. A mission is a bit more tactical, mission is a bit more tangible. A mission is something that you can actually achieve and then has to be updated. So a mission is something for the next 3 years, next 5 years, something that you actually have to be able to, yeah, we did that, now we update. And so, for example, if you look at NASA's vision could be to completely understand the workings of the universe, which they'll never be able to do. You're never going to completely understand the workings of the universe. But in the 60s, their mission was to put a man on Mars, on the moon. And they did that. But now that mission evolved over time. And so for you, when you're looking at setting your vision and mission, your vision is going to pretty much stay unchanged for the most part. And so it should be really big enough to allow you to grow and add services over time. Whereas your mission can be a lot more focused for what you're doing today and what you can achieve today. Your values, what is absolutely important to you and non-negotiable. And those can be internal values as to how you treat your people. They can be external values about how you treat your customers. And it's fair to share both of those with the external world. A lot of times values are internally shared. It's something that we hope will influence the way people who work for us work. However, it's more and more important now. Like I said, shared values is really important to customers. Values are now more and more important to share to the out. How do you treat your people? And there is an example of a company outside of Seattle, and the name slips my mind now, but during the pandemic, the CEO realized that if he cut his salary and his bonus, he could afford to significantly increase everybody's salary within the company, which is exactly what he did. And he realized that because he discovered that one of his employees was training in the evenings to become a McDonald's manager. And I think they're a software company, I can't recall. And he called her into his office and said, why are you training to be a McDonald's manager? Are you leaving us? And she said, no, but I can't afford to live in Seattle on the salary that I earn here. And I want to continue growing my career with you, but I need more money. And that kind of shocked him. And he realized, how can we as a company be operating this way? How can we allow that to happen? And so when he did this, it made news worldwide. And to today, almost 2 years after he made that decision, it still garners the company so much goodwill. The revenue has increased, the employee happiness has increased. So your values don't necessarily only have to be how you interact with the external world about sustainability and things like that. It's also really important about how you treat your people internally. And customers want to see that. And then finally, brand tonality. So how does your brand speak? And this one is really important for companies that are just starting out, especially if you're going to be active in the digital world. So what we find happens is that a lot of times the founders or owners of companies are also the ones running the social media accounts, which can be fantastic. But it's really important to separate you from your brand. If you are interacting online as you would interact personally online, that's already blurring the line between you as a person and the brand tonality, your tonality and the brand tonality. If they're very similar, okay. But for the most part, casual slang, the way you would talk naturally to friends online is not the way your brand should be talking online. So you need to be establishing how your brand should speak, both online, in its copy, on its website, in all of your brochures and advertisements and assets. What is the brand? How do you want, if that brand was a person, how would that person speak? Yeah. Okay. Do we have any questions here, Jen, that I need to tackle before moving on to the deep dive?
Hi, Maya. There was just one where somebody said, in a world of conversational commerce, how much do you build your brand strategy?
Of conversational commerce, I think I'd need a little bit more elaboration of what you mean by that, Sonia.
Sonia? Yeah. Maybe if not, Sonia, if you want to write it in the chat box and we can come back to that afterwards.
Sure. Yes, and it was Dan Price, Brenda, for the CEO who did that. It was Dan Price.
So actually that's an interesting one about personal brand and company brand alignment.
That really is a case by case. Oh, are you hearing me properly? Okay. That's a case by case topic. So personal brand and corporate brand, you can't blanket say they shouldn't be aligned, because sometimes the brand is the person, the face of the company. However, it is incredibly fine line to walk if you're going to be doing that. If you are going to be building your company around you as a person, this will be very tricky if you plan to exit. If you plan to later sell the brand on, many investors will then require that you stay on as a person, because if the value of the company is intertwined in you as a person, they will either need to be able to speak on your behalf, which you probably don't want, or you'll need to stay on board, or it'll be really, really difficult for you to exit. So it really depends on whether you are a solopreneur consultant who really honestly, you just want to be known as an expert in your industry, then yes, your personal brand and your corporate brand can completely be aligned, because they're pretty much, they're very much that's what you're offering. However, if you're a wider company and you need to have other people be on board and be trusted, it's really difficult to be building a company around your personal brand. So for example, in my case, if I was to only build a brand around me as a person, the other consultants that work with me would face difficulty in taking projects on because then everybody wants to work with Maya. And that's just not tenable. I can't run a company like that. So it's really important to separate corporate and personal if you need to rely on other people's expertise. However, if your expertise is the sole service, essentially, then yes, they can overlap. In some cases, the personal brand elevates the corporate brand. Yes, absolutely. In some cases, it does. It's true. Okay, let us move on. So I really built this up and I said it is the most important sentence that you will write for your brand. This is called the brand positioning statement. And it is a guiding statement for internal use that it identifies the key factors, the key influencing factors for marketing and business decisions. And I say business decisions because I come from a background of, my background is fast moving consumer goods, where marketing is the heartbeat of a company. And a lot of companies are not like that. A lot of companies, marketing is seen as a tack on, an add on. It's not the main function. But this is why we talk about when you develop a brand strategy, it's not just the work of the marketing department or the work of a brand consultant. It is a way that you influence the workings of the entire company, from the receptionist to the factories, to everything, to the drivers who deliver your product. So it's really, really important that when we talk about this statement, it's someone that everybody in your company knows. And it's internal. I say that it's internal because it's going to seem a bit lengthy. And so a lot of people instantly see that and think, whoa, that is really long. How would a consumer ever read that or care about that? A consumer doesn't really see this. So you take bits and pieces of it, you use that to influence your messages, you use it to create other things, but you don't necessarily post this specific sentence except internally. It includes 4 key factors, which are the target audience, who we need to address, the frame of reference, what part of the industry do we operate in, own selling proposition, what makes us different from our competition. So you'll notice here I did not say unique selling proposition. What is the thing that I want to be known for more than my competition is known for? Do I want to be known as the best brownie maker in the UAE? Do I want to be known as the most gooey, very specific, the most gooey, the most indulgent, the most healthy, vegan? What is that specific thing that you want ownership of, that when people think of it or need it, you're the first thing that comes to mind? And then finally, why should they believe? And why should they give you the front of, the top of mind spot in their brain? What are their reasons to believe? Okay, we're going to break each of these down. Now, this is really important to pay attention to because we're going to be doing an exercise in which you are going to be writing a draft of this for your own company. So if you do have questions along the way, do ask them, and Jen will interrupt me because we are going to actually be doing this work in breakout rooms on your own for kind of writing a draft and seeing if we can come up with an own brand positioning statement today for each of your companies. And there's 191 of you now. So that's 191 own selling brand positioning statements, which is very exciting. Okay, so target audience. Here are a few guiding things to think about when creating your target audience. We talked about you cannot target everyone. A lot of people have a spray and pray approach, which is just say, let's talk to everybody and whoever loves us will come. You can't do that because generally what happens is because you're so worried about alienating some people, you say things that are really politically correct or really simple to not kind of offend anybody or not alienate anyone or not, only align yourself with one group, that people are like, I don't actually remember what you stand for exactly, so I'm not going to remember you at all. Don't be afraid of losing a dollar. So this is really, really important because when I talk about point 1 of really trying to narrow down and focus, people are like, okay, well, I can't sustain a business. What if someone else who wasn't in that target audience wants to buy from me, and I might lose money if I get really specific. Narrowing down doesn't necessarily mean losing money. And identifying your primary audience doesn't mean they're the only people that are ever going to buy from you. there is the primary audience who you're going to speak to, and then there's always the secondary audiences who are aspirational, who or align with probably some of the values, don't identify completely with who you target, but may have some shared correlations or some shared aspects, may feel attracted to your brand for other reasons, may find it practical to buy your brand. There's always going to be secondary audience that isn't who you target in this exercise, but who will still buy your brand. And also, when you target someone really well and they feel that you actually understand their problems and you are actually speaking to them, creating for them, they are more likely to spend more money with you than someone who is lukewarm or actually has no real feelings towards your brand. That is really, really important to remember. So if any of you know Koita, the milk company, I talk about milk a lot, but Koita is one of my favorite brand examples of a local, fantastically locally found brand. So Mustafa Koita, the founder, launched this range of organic milk in the UAE, and now it's gone regional, and in an effort to create a better milk for his children. So milk has gotten a bad rap recently, and people are moving to milk alternatives, and milk has been perceived as not as healthy as we used to think it was, et cetera, et cetera. So he kind of broke that down and thought, well, is milk not healthy, or is the way we're producing milk today unhealthy? So he created an organic, hormone-free, however long life milk. So a lot of the things that tick a box for someone who has young children, like he did, for example. So as a mother of 3, I felt really drawn to Koita's story. First of all, I love local businesses, so I really love supporting local. Second of all, he was speaking a lot of the things I worried about. The taste of the milk was phenomenal. And so Koita quickly became the only milk that I would bring into my household. And Koita was 3 times more expensive than other long life milks on the shelf. However, I would happily spend 3 times more on a liter of Koita because I believed in the product quality and I felt connected to the brand story. And so that's what you have to think about. You're worried about losing $1 from someone who has no real feelings towards your brand. You should be thinking about gaining 3 times that much money from someone who has strong feelings about your brand. And then you have to make less effort to make the same amount or more money. So it's a win-win situation. When you've defined who you want to speak to, you have to think about what are the actual pain points that you're trying to solve. And a lot of times what happens, even the most global of companies, even in the most established of companies, is that we create products that we think are amazing and we want to create a need for them. We want to force consumers to believe that they need them. It's so much easier to work the other way. It's so much easier to say, what are the pain points of this group and how can I solve them with my product? So sometimes that requires you to do some research, and that research can be as simple as a focus group if you can't afford to do much more than that. It could be asking around, but really, really important not to simply go by what your friends are telling you because you live in an echo chamber. So if you're building a brand purely for you and the people around you, this might be really nice and you might be very proud of it. And it might still resonate with a lot of people, but a lot of times we end up with blinders on and not thinking about, actually, does my group of friends really represent a large enough group to make this a viable business? So that's the next point. Is the company's proposition solve the pain of the wider group? And is the target audience actually large enough to sustain your business? I'm just going to show you this quickly. When we do develop a target audience, we always create what we call personas. So we create imaginary people. And this is really, really important to create imaginary people that are illustrative for our team members, because then it allows them to visualize who we're speaking to start thinking about how they can better adjust their service or the products to serve these people. And it sometimes becomes that the personas become so strong that when someone walks in through the door, the team will go, oh, that's a James. That's definitely a James. And they'll know exactly what kind of products to pull off the shelf or what objections that person may have in their mind that they have to proactively overcome. Because when you know what a consumer's objections are going to be, whether it's price, whether it's timeline, whether it's, so many different things, and you can proactively tackle those in your narrative, it's like, wow, wait a second, this this company is in my mind. Like they're answering my questions before I ask them. And that makes a person really feel that you understand. So in this example, for example, we wrote a story about a marathon runner for a company. We always write an introduction story as to what leads the person to need our category or to need our product in specific. Then we will always do kind of like, we name the person individually, and then we create a category about the person, like performance pusher. We talk about their demographics, we talked about their education, what routine they have, what's their pain points, what's the aspiration, and how do our services help, of course. And so that's really important, is there are these pain points, how do we solve the pain points? And then what we do there is that usually this is specifically James's story. We will also create a generic version of this, is the performance pusher as a whole. What do they need and what should we look out for with that? Okay, the next element of the brand positioning statement is the frame of reference. So I put a camera here because this is the frame of reference. This is actually kind of saying, I'm going to draw a box around where I exist in the market, and that is where I'm going to focus. This is my slice of the market. Be specific. And what I mean here is saying, I run a cafe. Yes, you run a cafe. What kind of cafe do you run? Do you run a high-end French bistro? Or do you run a casual cafe where people can stay for hours just buying a coffee? Do you run a vegan cafe? Do you run a 24-hour breakfast cafe? What kind of cafe do you run? And why it's really, really important to be that specific is because that is going to influence everything you do by who is actually going to want that part of the pie, who is going to want that kind of company or that kind of brand or that kind of cafe, who's going to want to come to that. So it'll help you defining your target audience. It's also going to help you define your competitors, because sometimes we look around in our proximity and think, okay, if I'm a cafe and there's another cafe 2 doors down from me, that's my competition. Yes, to a degree. But if I'm looking for an all-day breakfast place and the cafe down the street from you is a shisha joint, that's not where I'm going, because maybe I don't want to sit around and smoke. I don't want that. On the flip side, if I really, really crave shisha and I want to go have shisha, or I want to be a smoking indoors and you don't offer that, I'm not going to look at you as interchangeable with the other cafe, for example. So what we need to do is we need to think, okay, if I'm thinking I'm a 24-hour breakfast joint that's casual vibe, what are the other cafes in the my city or within that my consumer can change me with, can choose over me? And that will help you focus a lot more. Like I said, the frame of reference determines your competition. You cannot focus on everyone. You cannot chase every potential competitor. You cannot look at every cafe and what they're offering in the market and try to beat that. So what you need to do is you need to draw the frame. This is my frame. I run a 24-hour breakfast, a casual breakfast joint. Ignore everything outside of the frame. Focus on what is in the frame, how you can do better, and how you can own the proposition that you want to own. And that leads us to the owned selling proposition, which is, what are you going to be synonymous with in your industry? What are you going to own? So a unique proposition is no longer reality. We touched on that. Define what you want to be known for. It's really, really important, because if you have, everybody really has a multitude of services and products for the most part. Is there some golden thread that ties them all together that you want to be known for? Is that about healthy choices? Is it about convenience? Is it about, what is the one unifying factor between all of your services that you want to be known for? Or if you really want to be known as the best gooey, the most indulgent gooey desserts, or whatever it is, just define what it is that you want to come top of mind to in your consumer's mind. Be bold, but be realistic as well. So we can always dream big, but when we are setting ourselves up for saying we are going to do X better than any other company in our vicinity, and we've just started out and they have better technology than us, more experienced staff, better brand recognition, it may not be realistic. When we define what our own selling proposition is, we have to also think about the reasons to believe. What is it that we are going to say justifies what we're claiming here? So yes, it should be bold, it should be exciting, it should resonate with your customer, but you should also be able to fulfill that and actually do it and not just write it on a piece of paper. that leads us to the last element of the reason to believe, which is treat your consumers like idiots. So don't just say, because I have the best ingredients, I have the best food. That's too simple. And people see through stuff like that all the time. The consumers are incredibly savvy today. They're incredibly smart. So when you justify something, they have to be able to call you on it. They have to be able to say, actually, you said you have expert staff. Where have they been trained? You know, recently I was working with a client on, and they said, oh, the expertise of our team is a reason to believe. And I said, well, what are their credentials? And they said, oh, we've trained them. I said, okay, but are there external credentials in this industry that are important that people look for? Yeah, you know, people might be looking for X degree or X certification. I said, do they have it? No, they don't. Well, your consumers are not idiots. If you say they're the most expert and they can easily dispute that and know it's fake, that actually is going to backlash on you big time. If you're saying you have state-of-the-art technology and when they get there, your laser hair removal machine is 10 years old, that's going to be a very bad look. So don't treat people like idiots. Consumers are incredibly smart and savvy. Whatever you say your reason to believe in needs to resonate with your target audience. So if your target audience is not scientifically savvy, if they don't care about the science of your industry, don't be using reasons to believe that they won't actually understand or they don't care about. On the other side, if your consumer is incredibly involved in your category, if they know the ingredients that they should be looking for in their shampoo or in their makeup, if they are very, very involved and savvy, you need to speak their language too. So they're going to be looking for certain buzzwords. They're going to be looking for certain things that if you don't tick that box, they may brush over you. So just know how involved is your customer in your brand. So someone who buys Koita milk may be looking for certain key buzzwords, reasons to believe that their brand is better than others, whereas someone who's happy to buy locally produced milk off the shelf may not care. So you need to know what resonates with your target audience. Actions speak louder than words. So again, saying I have the state-of-the-art technology and then, you know, having old technology, that speaks much louder than saying than words. So I am going to break down a few brand positioning statements. Again, remember, these are internal statements. These are not slogans. And we're going to talk about each of them so that you can understand how to build yours as well. So IKEA creates a better everyday life for the many people through affordable, stylish home solutions. So what is IKEA's, who are they targeting? The many people. Correct, Arish. And what they mean by that is they didn't want to say everyone. What they wanted to say is they're targeting mass market. They wanted to say it in a nicer way. And so they've chosen the words, the many people. We're a democratic brand. We're for the middle class. Like you said, we're for the many people. Okay, so then what is, this is a tricky one. What is their frame of reference? What is their market definition in this sentence? Don't pull something out what you know about IKEA. What have they classified as their frame of reference? Affordability, stylish homes. Nope. Home solutions, bum, 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 Izzy, good job. So I wish I had a little dinger as well. Home solutions is what IKEA has defined. They don't say furniture. They don't say organization boxes. They don't say hot dogs and ice cream and shawarma either. They say we sell home solutions. We are going to solve your home problems. We are going to make boxes that fit exactly underneath your bed so that you can have a lot of storage in a very small home. We are going to make modular shelves. We are going to do things that solve your pain of actually moving into a home and furnishing a home. So then their reason to believe, their own selling proposition. I love this own selling proposition. So let's see who can get it first. Remember, take derivatives just straight from the sentence. Affordable, maybe. Maybe. Stylish, no. Better what, Izzy? Everyday life. Okay, I'm going to put Izzy's together with everyday life. Sorry, it flew by me who said that. Better everyday life. Exactly. So what IKEA is promising to the people that buy from them is that you will get a better everyday life. I'm not telling you you will get the best furniture on the market. That's not what IKEA cares for you to think about. They're thinking about, if I need a million things to improve my life right now in my home, IKEA is my destination. The better everyday life. It is the mundane stuff that simply makes our life better. It is the little, things that go inside your cupboards to elevate, to make a shelf into shelf dividers. It is the things that stand your pots and pans up, super boring stuff that makes for a better everyday life. And the reason you believe, what is the reason that we believe that IKEA can create a better everyday life through their home solutions for the many people? What is the reason to believe that they're claiming? Why should we believe them? Affordable and innovation. Innovation's not mentioned. Affordable and stylish. So they're saying we are marrying two concepts here, affordability and style. You don't have to compromise on either. You will have a product that is affordable enough and stylish enough to create a better everyday home with our home solutions. So that's why this is, and if you think about what IKEA does every day, I'm sure that many of you will agree this is a really straight to the point and spot on brand positioning statement for them. Okay, next one on our list is BMW. I love this one. So for drivers that value auto performance, BMW provides luxury vehicles that deliver joy through German engineering. Who is BMW targeting? Drivers that value auto performance. Ooh, we're getting really good from the get-go. Fantastic. Yes. So BMW is not targeting people who want to get from A to B, and that's it. They are not targeting people who actually prioritize safety, Miriam. That would be someone like Volvo would be prioritizing that kind of target audience. Their cars are incredibly safe, don't get me wrong, but that's not what they elevate in their branding. They want to be known as the brand that when you're the kind of person who sits in your car and you press the button. I mean, you would turn the ignition before years ago, but it's press the button now. It's not as enjoyable, but you press the button and you hear the engine roar to life, and that gives you that feeling of, I love my car. If you're somebody who just needs a lot of boot space to take the kids to soccer, or to, you have a huge family and you just want something affordable that doesn't guzzle gas, that's not who they're targeting. And so it's really, really important to remember that it doesn't mean that people who value safety won't buy a BMW. It just means that they are targeting a certain type of driver and the people who believe they are that type of driver as well. So that goes back to the aspirational aspect too. So provide, what is their frame of reference? What is the box they've drawn around themselves? Luxury vehicles, exactly. They're not competing with Mazda. They're not competing with, Honda. They're fantastic cars, Honda and Mazda, but they're not competing with those brands. They're competing with brands in the luxury vehicle sector, and that helps them focus on who their competition is. What is their own selling proposition? Not German engineering. Joy. Joy. Ritu, good job, Ritu. This one's really clicking with you. Joy. So BMW is promising joy. What an amazing thing to promise. I could say that I have the best German car on the market. I could say that I have the fastest, the safest, the whatever. They've decided to move away from functionality and just say, we have such an awesome car that we just go beyond the functional. We're just going to make every single experience with a BMW, every single drive a car, joyful. And I knew this was a strong own selling proposition because when I read it, I kind of was like, it's a bit fluffy. And I turned to my husband, who works in investments, who doesn't care anything about advertising or branding. And I said, when you think of BMW, what do you think? And his immediate instantaneous reaction was pure driving pleasure. And I said, where did you come up with that? And he said, I saw it in an ad once, that was a tagline they had used, and it stuck with me because that is, when you drive a high-end BMW, that is the feeling that you get. It's pure driving pleasure. And so for him, someone in their target audience, they resonated really strongly. And that's what I mean by this sentence. It doesn't get printed on advertisements. They make derivatives of the sentence for their taglines, for their copy, for their website, to try to communicate these messages. So they translated joy to pure driving pleasure. Okay, and what is the reason to believe? German engineering, good, good, good. So if I said Lebanese engineering with that, and I'm Lebanese, by the way, so I can say that, would that make me believe that this is true? No. If I was talking about food and I used Lebanese as the justification, that's fine. Okay, Sahad, don't laugh too loud. We're okay at other things. Yes, so if I was talking about a restaurant or food, we would believe that Lebanese equates good quality. However, building a car, Lebanese engineering for cars, we're not known for that. We don't do that. We don't have that industry. So German engineering, however, instantly you have that connection. Yes, German engineering is fine. If I was to say this was a fashion brand, and my justification is that it's a German fashion brand, I'm not really sure that would resonate with anyone either. So that's really, really important to know, is that when we use our reason to believe, it has to actually justify what we're saying. Okay. So the last one I'm going to share before I break you out is Walt Disney World, which is the theme party. So this isn't the TV shows and the cartoons and whatever. This is the theme park. For the young and the young at heart, Walt Disney World is the theme park that delivers on an immersive and magical experience, because Walt Disney World, and only Walt Disney World, connects you to the characters and worlds you most desire. Who are they targeting? Young and young at heart. Fantastic. Thank you, Mona. Thank you, Minnie. Okay, this was really important. Young and young at heart. Disney theme parks are not only for children. There are people all over the world obsessed with Disney theme parks and planning Disney trips. There are travel agents purely dedicated to planning trips to Disneyland and Disney World. So yeah, okay, Mona, you like Disney. So you will go there and you will find adults there without kids. I mean, my husband and I have gone to Disneyland Paris without kids, and it was before we even had kids. So it's for the young and the young at heart. What is the frame of reference they are drawing around themselves? What is their market definition? Theme park, fantastic. What is the owned selling proposition? Magical experience, immersive magical experience. You ladies are getting this so quickly now. Fantastic. So it is Walt Disney promises you that they will best deliver on an immersive and magical experience. And who knows what Disneyland's tagline is. And you will see how it's a translation of this. What is their tagline that translates best delivers on an immersive and magical experience? I usually have candy in my workshops and I throw candy. Yes, the happiest place on earth. Exactly. Sometimes the most magical place on earth. So Suman, you got that. And I would throw you some candy now if you were here. But Disney is all about the experience. It's all about the people in the costumes at Disneyland can never break character. They are never allowed to be caught out back smoking a cigarette in a Belle costume. Okay. It is a completely immersive experience where when you go there, you are to believe 100% you are in Sleeping Beauty's castle. Like that is the goal of what you create at Walt Disney World. And what they're saying is their reason to believe is that Walt Disney World and only Walt Disney World connects you to the characters and worlds you most desire. And this has always been a point of contention when I share this. People say, well, they're not the only company that has characters. And they're not the only theme park that has characters. True, but their characters are probably the most recognizable characters on the planet. Mickey Mouse is probably the most recognizable character on the planet. So what they're claiming isn't that they're the only ones. I mean, there are Looney Tunes, there are other characters, but a Disneyland with Disney characters is something that is unrivaled because of the characters and the stories. And I want to tell you something I only discovered recently that I had no idea. I had no idea that the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise was actually created based on one of the rides at Disney World. So it wasn't, the Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disney World wasn't created after the movies. They were trying to come up with movie franchise ideas. And they looked at what one of their most popular rides was, and it was the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. And they said, well, what if we create a story around this ride that we can create a movie franchise off of? And it became one of the most successful movie franchises, thus boosting the presence of the ride at Disney World as well. So that's how, as well, everything is interlinked in creating a brand. Okay, let us move on to now. We're going to do breakout rooms now. So we are, Jen, how many people are we and how many rooms are we going to break out into? How many
so we have 178 people. So if we break out into 50 breakout rooms, we could have 3 to 4 participants per room, which would be nice. Good. So I think what we'll do is try that. And then if there's anybody who's alone, I'll quickly shift you over into a separate group as well. So perfect. I don't know if everybody here knows how to use breakout rooms, but basically what's going to happen is you're going to have a notification that will appear on your screen asking you to join a breakout room. So if you could please select yes and go into the breakout room. If you choose, if you're working and kind of listening in the background, that's fine. You can just ignore the request and just stay within the main room and we'll manually deal with that. And I think, Maya, you're looking at allocating about
20. I'm going to reduce it now.
20 minutes, maybe about 10.
Yes, if we're 3 to 4 people, we're going to do 15 minutes. I think we'll be or okay. 10, let's say 10 minutes and we'll check in on the groups and see how they're going.
Okay, we'll do 10 minutes. So if you're working, what we're going to do is we'll be back here at 11:30. So I will assign everybody now if you can go into your groups and then we'll see you back at 11:30.
Wait, I didn't explain the exercise.
Sorry. I haven't done it yet. There you go.
Okay, so
excited.
We talked about building a brand positioning statement, but writing a brand positioning statement is a long process that takes a lot of marination and thinking. And what I want you to think about today, which is still not as easy, is what is your owned selling proposition? So now that we've debunked this idea of unique selling proposition, what is your magical and immersive experience? What is your joy? What is your better everyday life? What is the owned selling proposition that your company delivers on? I don't need you to work on the other things with the group, but keep those other things in mind. Keep in mind who you're targeting, keep in mind your frame of reference, and keep in mind what you have to justify that owned selling proposition. The things to think about is, can you actually do this better than anybody else? Should people actually equate you as the best for whatever you're claiming? And does your audience actually care? This is a really, really important one. So if I'm saying that I am going to be the only company that does completely permanent laser tattoo removal, is that really important? Some people, yes, it is. And so if that's your target audience, absolutely really cares about that. But it's 10 times more expensive than the laser remover that will do 80% tattoo removal. You have to think about, do people you're targeting actually make that trade-off? Is it important enough for them? Does your audience care about what you're claiming is your own selling proposition? So we're going to give you 10 minutes. Sorry, I've taken a lot of the time to talk. And what we're going to do is that you're going to write them, share them in your small group, and you need to the last point is that it can be abstract and not literal. So think about things like delivering joy. You can say it's a feeling that you're giving, it's an experience that you're giving, it's magical. Think about abstract things as well as functional, because abstract is much more memorable. So the group assessment is that once you share these with your group, so take a few minutes to write them down, and then once you share them with your group, is it interesting? Will it resonate with this person's audience? So maybe just give a little bit of context of what you do and who you're targeting. Can she own this better? Is it believable that you would do it better than your competition? And it's important that we challenge each other positively and politely. So we have in this part of the world, we're we don't like to point out flaws sometimes. We don't like to say that something is not good. So it's important that if we really think that it's not as strong as it could be, that we point this out to help each other improve. If we think that maybe it resonates really strongly with the person speaking, but not necessarily with the audience that they're targeting, that's something to point out. And on the receiving end of that, please take everything with an open mind. Maybe you're really, really committed to what you're doing and you believe in yourself 100%, and you're really dedicated to that own selling proposition. Still important to listen to people who are super objective and have nothing to gain by telling you feedback. So just remember that people who are sharing this feedback are for your own benefit. All right, so Jen, you can go on and shoot them off. In 10 minutes. We will regroup here, and I will ask for 3 volunteers to unmute and share their own selling proposition. Okay, off you go.
Maya, we're looking, just before I do that, we'll be back at 11:35 now. And can you go to the previous slides? Because a few people have asked if they could just see the previous slide again. So
take a picture with your mobiles. Take a picture with your mobiles.
Yeah, actually, let's do that. Take a picture of your mobiles with both sides. So we'll just hold it here for a second. Take a screen grab here. And then let's go to the next slide as well again, Maya. There we go. Whoops. Okay, we'll see you back in 10 minutes.
Ciao.
And if you could just accept the request to move into the room, please, so we can get you all over there. Please go into your room. You don't want to leave people by themselves. I think so long as we've got groups with 2 or 3 people in it, we're good. Maya, I'm here. I'm just working on the groups. So if you want to speak to me, you can.
No, I'm watching the groups just to make sure that, I mean, I'm sure you're actively doing that. So ladies, like
yeah,
Jen
I'm
said,
just popping people over.
Yeah. So a lot of you have been very active on the chat and you just haven't accepted to go into a group. So just make sure if you haven't gotten that pop-up, just shoot us a text and say, I'm not able to do it. Okay,
Yeah,
working
please
and
let me
listening.
Just trying to get the ones who are by themselves. There's a few that are by themselves here.
Yeah.
Maya, are you in the breakout rooms as well? Actually, because there's quite a few. Do you want to start from the bottom and I'm working from the top? If you want to start from 50 and see if you can move anybody around.
Yeah, I can. Okay, I can move them. Okay.
So I'm just looking for the people who are solos and
Yeah.
moving them to they'll be in a group with somebody
Yeah.
else.
I think we've met in the middle now, you and me.
Yeah, and I'm just starting from the beginning again, just making sure everybody's here. I think.
Oh, we have one
everybody's
here.
in. Oh, 21.
No, 41. I have
Okay.
someone.
21.
You're moving 21 to 41?
No, sorry. Actually, I just moved it to the wrong. Sorry, 20. 1, 2,
21 to 32.
27.
Oh. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I think we've got them all there.
Super. It
Oh,
amazes
no,
me how many.
32. So,
Oh, there's no one in 32. I don't see anyone in 32.
no, she just left. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I think we're good.
All of you people who are working and listening at the same time, that is awesome. I think it's really good that you're taking the opportunity to learn while you're working.
Okay, so we'll give it maybe 7 minutes, Maya, and then we'll grab everybody back.
I'm getting a lot of direct messages from.
Oh yeah, okay, we've got a reach. Let me find you. And
Gina. Okay, hold on. A lot of people, Siham, Arij.
let's put Arij and Gina together then. Why don't let's move Arij and Gina into
No, Arij and
room
Siham.
one.
Arij and Siham. Gina's asking for some Siham is saying, I am alone in the room. I've asked Jennifer to move me. Okay, hold on. She is on it. So Siham is asking that you move her, please. She's alone.
Can you just pop the spelling of her name in the chat group so I can find everybody? Arij,
hold on. Let me
find
just
you.
Siham. I'm going to see if I can find her as well.
Yeah.
Can you search here?
No, you cannot. So sorry, ladies. It's just taking a second because we have to read through a whole list of like 150 people's names.
No, just ask her what room she's in. What room?
Here's a reach. Okay, Arij, I'm going to move you to 42. There's one person in there by herself, so let's see if that will make up the group. And Siham as well. Did you find Siham?
Just asked her what room she's in. She has not responded. I don't see anyone in solo in the rooms though.
Yeah, there was
Oh, Siham, she's in room 50. Okay. I'm going to move her to room 4. I'm going to move her to room 49.
Okay. Why don't you move her to 42 because that's just started. Oh,
okay. I'll move her to 42.
Too late.
Oh, done. Okay.
Yeah, I think.
Iman,
Iman, what room are you in?
We moved you, Iman, though. I moved you. 41.
She's not there anymore, Iman. I think we've moved.
I moved you to a different room, Iman.
It says 42, but she hasn't joined yet. So Iman, can you just look and see? We've moved you to 42. If you can just accept.
I think we give everybody just a few extra minutes, Jen,
Yeah.
to talk. Mhm. Gina, you asked for something. Let me see if I can give it to her.
Maya, I'll be back in just 1 minute, okay? And then I'll bring everybody back.
Sure. Aisha and Siham. Okay, let me just see if I can fit you two together then. Sorry, there's just so many people that if someone's not accepting, it is difficult for us to manage. Hold on.
Okay, Maya.
Okay, Aisha, I've just moved you. You have a few minutes to chat with Zainab if you accept. Okay, Siham, thank you for being understanding. Iman, I'm sorry, I'm sorry that didn't work out in the breakout rooms, but we are going to call everyone back in a minute so we can have. If you've written yours on your own, we'd be happy to listen to it as a group, if you'd like. Okay. Okay. So Jen, when everyone maybe call everyone. What time is it now? Oh.
Give them 1 minute.
Yeah.
Or 2 minutes. I'll send them a message and I'll just say 2 minutes and then we're coming back.
Yeah, and then once we come back, just we'll ask for volunteers to raise their hand with the little raise your hand thing, and you can pick 3 people randomly to share theirs, please.
Okay. I think we're going to have to spend maybe 1-2 minutes maximum per person because we will need to end right at 12, and then we can always have a bit of time for Q&A if you have time to stick around after.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, we've got about 30 seconds and then I'll close the rooms. Okay, Maya, I'm going to bring everybody back now, okay?
Yeah, sure.
Got 60 seconds.
It's always so ominous when you see the 60-second countdown in a breakout room.
Yeah.
Like, ah!
Absolutely. Okay, Maya. Everybody should be back now. We have, yep, slowly, hang on.
Okay, I love how many, now I see more videos. So that's great. Everyone's switched on their video. Okay, so are we back? You're saying, Jen, everybody's back?
Yeah, everybody's back.
Super.
So,
okay,
yeah.
Sorry for those of you who got put into groups that ended up not having a partner. Jen and I were really racing to try to pair you all up. But if you did on your own write a own selling proposition or within your group, and we're going to select 3 people to quickly share theirs. So if you would like to share yours to the wider group, we're not going to be doing a huge assessment, but if you would like to share yours, please raise your hand with the yellow hand and the reactions, and Jen will select 3 people.
Okay, the first one we're going to go with is Amruta.
Okay, Amruta,
Yes.
hello.
So just unmute yourself. Hi, Amruta.
Just introduce your company, what you do, and what your own selling proposition is, please.
Okay, so what my company does is provide sustainability advisory to companies, one group, and individuals, which could be entrepreneurs, professionals, or anyone who wants to learn more about sustainability. So that is what I do. And should I go through those questions which you showed us for the
No, what is the own selling proposition? What is your own selling proposition? So like IKEA said, better everyday life, like BMW said, they deliver joy. What does your company do, Amruta?
So what my company does is basically educate people or industries or decision maker in the industries about sustainability and inspire them or help them moving towards more sustainable practices to support circular economy or reduce climate change, or all of those aspects. Basically, I can go on and on, but yeah,
okay, fantastic. I would love to chat forever, but I'm gonna pick up on a couple things from what you said. So you started off talking functional there. We deliver trainings or support or consultant, and then you quickly moved into to inspire a desire for more sustainability. I forget the exact wording, but that's what caught my ear, is that what you promise that you'll do is will inspire change within you. And it's not, you're not saying I'm going to save the world, I'm going to save the planet. That can be your big vision, but also being realistic. It's inspiring change in individuals and companies. That's what we promise we're going to do. And then you can always tack on how you're going to do it through your reason to believe. Thank you, Amruta. Who's next?
Thank you.
Thanks. We're going to go to Suman next.
Suman. Hello. Oh, unmute. We can't hear you.
Come on, Suman.
Sorry. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know. So have an e-commerce website. It started off with being a support group for families with twins and triplets, and we've now expanded to become an e-commerce site. So our statement is fueled by community. Twins Plus Arabia is the Middle East's only curated site for twins and triplets with specialized products, bulk deals, and more.
Okay. What is the own selling proposition there? So what is it? Because I heard your target audience, I heard your frame of reference, and I heard how you do it, the reason to believe. But what is it that you're delivering to these families?
I'd like to think that it's specialized products and bulk deals, but I'd like to say, to add somewhere that, that I'm part of the community, and also something to do with a local business, or perhaps quick service and quick delivery.
So all of those are functional RTBs, specialized products, bulk deals, quick service, convenience, fantastic reasons to believe. This is how I'm like, yeah, they do that. But what are you doing for me? Are you giving me a better everyday life? Are you making my life simple? Are you the #1 resource for these families? So what is it that you promise to be? That's what you need to think about, is that the way you're going to deliver that promise is going to change over the years. You're saying you were only a Facebook group before, and now you've become an e-commerce website. So you can't really focus too hard on building your whole reputation around specialized products or deals or things like that, because that's going to change. You were a Facebook group, now you're all this. So, but what is the goal overall? Is making their life easier, giving them a sense of community? Is bringing it all together? Think about that when you're reworking your own selling proposition, because you have all the other parts of your brand positioning statement. You just need to kind of rework that part. Cool.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks.
Great. Sorry to be going so
you.
quickly. Yeah. Next person. Jen.
Next one is Iman.
Okay, Iman. Iman.
Unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hi, Iman.
Hi, everyone.
Tell us your company and what your own selling proposition is.
Okay, my name is Iman Al-Kurdi. I'm from Sudan, Khartoum, Sudan. And I started a business in 2016. It's called Mama Africa. And what it's about skin products and all things for girls only. It's a niche market. But the idea of it was because in 2015, Sudanese girls started bleaching skin because in our tradition, we have a saying that the whiter you are, the prettier you are. So in 2016, I went to South Africa and I found that all the girls loving their skin colors, no matter how dark it is and all. And I really like that the South African government doesn't allow any bleach products in their skins. They don't allow that in South Africa. So I brought the idea back to Sudan and it went very well. And I had a lot of selling of the product that Sudanese girls finally started liking their skin colors and all. So what I'm promising my clients is, and what they really loved about my products and all, is that they start loving their skin and their color the way it is without bleaching.
I love that. I think that's a perfect way to create something that's a lot more emotional, because as well, the way you're going to deliver that is going to change over the years. So the idea is that you're helping them to use a phrase from Olay, which is a different brand, love the skin they're in. But so also, and it's very, very important here, because I was able to immediately pick up on a tagline from another brand that has the same thinking behind what you're doing. It's really important that you go away now and rethink, how can I change that, update that to be more specific to me, but still be a little bit snappy, because we can't write these long, complex sentences that people are just going to, oh, love the skin you're in is really catchy, but Olay already said it, right? So just now when you kind of go back and rethink that, just keep in mind that you have the right idea. We need to just fine tune it to be a little bit more owned by you. Okay,
sounds good.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Oh, right.
Maya, let's do one more if you
Okay.
can. I'd like to go to Bushra bin Ali, please. If you can. Hi, Bushra.
Hello, hi. My name is Bushra bin Ali. I'm from United Arab Emirates. I want to share with you what I wrote.
Sure.
Nice Spa is a luxurious spa for elegant ladies that deliver unique experience of relax and joy through trained specialists from all over the world.
Okay, so you used the word unique. How are your services unique? What is unique? Sorry, it was called Nice Spa?
Nice
Spa. Nice Spa. How is Nice services, how are their services unique?
The experience, it will be unique.
Okay, what is unique about it? You said something about relaxation and joy, I think you were saying?
Yes, so the experience itself, it will be unique when they come. They will get like, some service will be unique.
Okay, so when you use a word like unique in your sentence without being able to clearly elaborate on it for the consumer, it can be confusing to them because they don't know what to expect. And it's really important for consumers to know what to expect, especially when they're going for a physical experience with you. So your spa sounds wonderful, and I love the name Nai. The idea is, when I'm saying a relaxing and joyful experience, am I promising the most relaxing oasis in the city, a place where you can disconnect, a place where you can forget your worries. So one of the ways I deliver that is through services that are unique to the industry. But when I use a word like unique, my customer's imagination can go anywhere. They don't know how you define that. So it's very important to try to be as specific as possible and maybe shift your focus a little bit away from promising the services to promising this idea of disconnection, relaxation, leaving with joy, feeling, like that. So maybe ground yourself there a little bit.
Yeah, this is a good point. Thank you.
You're well. Where is your spa?
It's in Sharjah.
Sharjah. Okay. Maybe we'll come down and visit one day.
Thanks, Bushra.
Bye.
Okay, Maya, let's kick off because we've got about 10-15 minutes, and then we can do Q&As. And Maya, if you have time, it would be great to have you stick around as well. Okay.
So we're going to try to get through the material by 12. If you want to stick around and chat afterwards, we will have some extra time at the end. Okay. So
and put your questions in the chat box, and I'll get to them at the end for you as well.
So if you remember my brand myths from the beginning, one of the things I said is that one of the biggest myths is that a brand is a logo, and a logo is a very important part of a brand. So I would never discount how important visuals are, and I would never undermine the role of designers in the branding process. They are incredibly important because some people are oral, some people are visual learners, and some people are verbal learners. So we need to be able to have cues for both in our community, in our consumers. So visuals are incredibly important. Now, we've talked about how to establish the basics of a strategy. How do we now turn that into the visuals? Because that's the next most important step. Aligning your brand's visual identity with the brand's strategy is essential, as visuals are one of the key touch points of the brand. That's why I always say you cannot create your logo and your visuals without creating a brand strategy. And a huge red flag, if you are working with a designer who does not ask you any strategic questions about your brand and only asks you visual questions like what colors do you like, what symbols do you want to include, this is an enormous red flag. And I know we have some designers in this group, and I'm sure that all of you are including some sort of strategic thinking in your work as well. A strong designer will always actually listen to your strategy and root their work in your strategy, which is why in the past, what our clients have done is we've done the strategic work. We offer visual services as well at my firm. However, if later in the future they want to redo their visual work, they often send the strategy to new designers, and that gives those designers the foundation of thinking, okay, so this brand wants to be perceived as cheeky and fun and quirky and a little bit naughty. How do I communicate that in the visuals? How do I communicate that in the brand visual language? A strong designer will be able to take the strategy and translate that into visuals. So I'm going to shoot through this quickly because of time. I put 3 logos up on the chat. When you see the Kareem logo, please tell me in quick words, what does it say to you? The visual, what does it say to you? Happy, quick service, on time, delivery, convenient, fast. Remember, we're talking about the visual, not what you know of the experience. Friendly, happy, friendly, fun, friendly, efficient, generous. Perfect. So when you compare Kareem's logo to Uber, Uber is black and sleek and minimalist because they're going for the luxurious, your personal, the whole idea behind Uber was it's your personal chauffeur. Obviously, it's evolved over time. Kareem's branding was always about being the cheeky, fun, local brand, the local competitor that's going to give Uber a run for its money. Hence the wink, hence they have had very fun advertising over the years. Makes you smile, for example, happy, easy, practical. So all of those things are very clear from the color choice they've made, from the little smiley face in their logo, from including Yalla, let's go, which is a very casual way of speaking. The fact that they include Yalla is also showing you that they really value being local in their market as well. This is hugely important for Kareem, which is one of the ways they were able to really outpace Uber in every market that they entered in the regions. They really focused on understanding the local market's needs. Okay, I'm not sure if you guys know the Happy Box, which is next to it, but if you don't, what is your instant reaction to this logo, and how does it make you feel? Celebration, fun, glitter, colorful, surprise, yes. So the Happy Box is a subscription box that gets delivered to families in which they can have activities for their children to really improve interactive experiences in families. They want to deliver happiness and joy, and everything about this brand is super consistent. In other workshops I've done, I've really run through how the founder has been able to align every single touch point of her brand to say the same thing, including her out of office messages on her personal email, which is incredible. So limitless fun, fantastic. I've included a third one of a brand that you may not know unless you live in Abu Dhabi. It's actually it's a cafe in Abu Dhabi. And if you just look at it, why I included it is that I'm hoping most of you don't know it. And you'll tell me what you think of it. What are they trying to communicate as a feeling about their cafe? Connecting, office, community, community feeling, connection. Oh, you know where it is. Okay, professional, home office cafe, meeting point, a place like home. Way, fantastic. So this is actually a brand that we rebranded recently. We redid the visuals for them. And a big part of what they're creating is the third place is the place that's not your home and not your office. Hence the Venn diagram of the overlap where they exist in the middle as giving you a neutral space to be. And it is a community cafe, and they really focus on community, which is why we included the brand describer in the logo. So these are the kind of things that it really, when you're designing or when your logo, it is important for your designer or the person who's working on it to think those keywords that you came up in your strategy, the messages, the own selling proposition, the reasons to believe. How do we translate that? You can't obviously do everything, but you take the most important things and translate them into your visuals. Now, an important thing to say is the better the brief, the better the outcome. So a lot of people say, oh, the designer wasn't very good. They weren't able to really understand my vision. Well, the designer doesn't live in your head. So it's really important for you, if you've created a strategy, to share that with them, first of all. Second of all, to give them as much information as possible. Give them context. Tell them who your competitors are. Tell them what your challenges are. Tell them what your aspiration is. Tell them who, give them visual logos. Give them examples of logos that appeal to you. They might challenge you as to say, well, yes, that's a beautiful logo for Yves Saint Laurent, but it's not a good logo for your category for X reason. A good designer will challenge you. That's also really, really important to know, that if you, as someone who is not specialized in graphic design, you are the only person guiding this designer and they are listening to everything you're saying and just implementing, that is not the person you want to work with. You want to work with someone who positively interprets what you're asking for and tells you from their expert point of view how you can achieve what you're looking to achieve. I wanted to touch on what a standard branding package looks like, because a lot of people who are not part of this industry may not know what should come included with creating a logo. So generally the standard package for when you create a logo should be, of course, the logo, but also the usage guidelines. Am I allowed, should I put this logo on solid backgrounds, only white backgrounds? Can I expand it? Can it be really large? What's the minimum size? What's the maximum size? Those are really, really important things to be created in a guideline. You need to have a guideline that comes with any visuals that are created for you by anybody. If they just deliver you logo files with no guideline of what fonts to use, what colors to use, all of that stuff, they have not done their job unless you have specifically paid them less to exclude this part. That's really, really important. If you're doing a proper design package and it's a good investment from your end and you don't receive guidelines, that's a red flag. So second is font selection and usage guidelines. And that's not the font for the logo itself. Generally, when we create logos and we create brand visuals, we also select fonts for any text that we've written on the websites, on the brochures, things like that. So when you think about, for example, the Emirates font, it is so distinct that you will know it anywhere, okay? The Walt Disney font. And so you usually have a different font for headlines and a font for body text, because it's really important that body text is legible. Also, legibility is incredibly important for logos in font and for and for text you. If your logo looks really nice, but I have no idea what your brand name is, that's a big problem. If I can't read your brand from a distance, that's a big problem as well. So think about these things with font selection. Usage guidelines will include things like what font size should my headers be? What should it be bold? Which version of this font should I be using? You should please use fonts legally. So if you are using a font that is a protected font or is owned by somebody, please pay that person who created it. It is a really difficult thing to make a font. So it's important to give font creators their credit and the money they deserve. Color palette and usage guidelines. So while your logo may have maybe only black, a lot of people choose that monochrome look. They may be a color palette that is used for your associated brand assets that you can use, and the usage guidelines there. Business cards and email signature. So both of those are really incredibly important. Business cards, sometimes people forego them now because they don't use business cards, but at least an email signature is important. Letterhead, some people still require and request letterhead, and envelopes. So this is a standard package. Now, a lot of this you won't need, or some of this you won't need. Adapt when negotiating your contract. So don't just accept envelopes because the person said they're going to design envelopes for you. If you're never ever going to use an envelope, ask for something else in the package. Say, actually, could you please design for me the sticker that's going to go on my packaging? Could you please design for me the napkin that I'm going to print for my cafe? I'm never ever going to use an envelope. So for example, what a lot of people ask us to add in now is a PowerPoint template. Can you create a PowerPoint template for us that we can use? We don't want the envelopes, we don't want the letterhead, we don't want X, Y, and Z. So don't just accept the standard if they're going to be assets you won't need. All right. So in summary, I am 1 minute over, but we're there. Branding is crucial from the first stages of your business. I think we were all in agreement about that. You cannot target everyone. Stop trying. You will exhaust yourself. Forget about being unique. I want you to strike this term from your dictionary, please. Nobody is unique. I mean, you as a person, you are unique, yes, but no company is really unique. A logo is a reflection of the brand strategy. Just like the clothes you wear speak volumes about how you perceive yourself and how you want to be perceived, that is how a logo is.
لا الغيها بس اذا ما دفعت الغيها بس والله ما حبيت نكون.
Okay, the better your brief, the better your outcome. So if you take the time, it's really important to take the time to write a brief for a designer, write a brief for a brand strategist. And if you haven't, and they don't ask you any questions, run, okay? And last, your brand exists in the mind of your consumer. Again, if there's only one thing that you remember from today, and I sincerely hope there's not only one thing you remember from today, but if there is only one thing that you remember from today, it is that you do not own your brand. It lives in the minds of your consumers. You can influence by being mindful, by being purposeful, and by being consistent. Consistency is really important. And when this comes into play is when you're growing, you're adding more people into your team. Sometimes we're so pressed for time that we forget to share our vision with new team members. We forget to bring them into our world. We expect them to do their job really well, but we don't actually tell them the big picture. What are they working towards? How should they be speaking to customers? Don't use your own tonality, use the brand tonality. But if they don't know what the brand tonality is supposed to be, how are they supposed to do that? One of my favorite exercises when I do workshops with clients is asking them at the beginning, summarize your company in one sentence. And it's always really shocking to the management team when they find that usually the team don't have an aligned sentence that they would use to introduce what they do in a party. And that's a really starting point for where you can improve your branding internally. Fantastic. So we have gone to the Q&A section of today. If you are need to shoot off, thank you for joining us today. But if you want to stick around for some chat, please do.
Maya, before everybody leaves, there's just a couple of housekeeping things that I want to do first. If we can move forward with the slides,
Yes.
and
Yes.
then we will go back and we'll do a Q&A. So first of all, ladies, I would really love it if you could please answer for us about how you feel about branding now, if you feel that you're much more knowledgeable about building your brand. So we're just going to launch a poll for you really quickly to to have that. So I would just love for you to fill that in super quickly as we go along. And while we're doing that, Maya, if you could just move forward a couple of slides. I just want to share what's coming up for our next workshops. We have 2 workshops coming up, and there's one where there's a question actually where somebody asked us about protecting their brand. Well, protecting, funny you ask, because on the 22nd of September, we're going to be talking about protecting your brand and your intellectual property, and also we'll be looking at copywriting as well. So we will have the head of the intellectual property practice from Lawyers BSA, who will be running a session with us for 90 minutes. You will be getting an email from UN Women about that. And then for our Arabic speakers, because I hear a lot from Arabic speakers that they do struggle with writing in Arabic, especially for their business, on their website, communicating with customers or clients, also on social media. We have Ola Arafa from Rewrite Dubai, who is going to run a very practical workshop on writing better business copy, and that will happen on the 28th of September. So we do have a couple of really fun practical workshops which are designed to help you in your business. So I hope you'll be able to join us for that, and you will be getting a message from UN Women with the information on how to join as well. Now, I also want to share with you one last thing before we jump over to Maya again, is you remember how I was speaking to at the beginning about the Women-Owned Business Directory? Well, I have the link for you right here in the chat box. If you want to grab it, save it for later, and you can go there and enter the details and be some of the first ladies to register information about your business. Do leave yourself a bit of time to do it, because it does have questions about your business, and you need to upload proof showing that you are more than 51% female owned or more than 25% if you have a local partner. So for all of those people who are leaving us now, I would really like to thank UN Women, NAMA Women Advancement Establishment for supporting women entrepreneurs and supporting us to grow our businesses, and for putting on these sessions. So thank you very much to them. And thank you, Maya, to you for sharing all of your insight and knowledge, and for all of you for giving us 2 hours of your time today to learn about branding strategy. So thank you very much to all of you. We are stronger together. So if you do need to leave, you are welcome to log off. And anybody who wants to stick around and ask questions, Maya, I'm handing it back over to you.
Sure. So we will be taking questions. I think the easiest way still will be to, if you pop them into the chat, please, rather than unmuting. And thank you for all the wonderful comments that you're putting. I mean, it's just so nice to hear such positive feedback. I'm glad that you learned today. So if there's still anything you have questions on, please drop them in the chat.
Shall I go through them for you, Maya, just to make it a little bit easier as well? Yeah, because we've got a bunch mixed up with other comments. And ladies, if I could please ask you just to stay muted as well, because you might not hear it, but we get a lot of feedback in the session as well. So unmute unless Maya asks you not to. We've been asked, I have a question. To get the right target audience, we need to do a market research to see if we're targeting a large enough group with those pain points. How do we do that without using research agencies? And do you recommend using them? What do we ask them to help with? And are there any other options we could for a small business if we don't have much capital to invest in one?
The short answer to this is that I do absolutely recommend using research agencies, and doesn't mean you have to go to AC Nielsen, which is one of the largest research agencies in the world. There are lots of companies that offer research services that are more affordable. It is not a cheap thing to do, for sure, but it is a lot more expensive to invest in building a business that actually doesn't resonate with anybody. So sometimes there are costs that are going to be unseen for you in the future. And it's better to make investments at the beginning. To give you an example, I mean, we do research at my firm as well. And we have done research recently for an e-commerce company that was dead set on their positioning, dead set on the brand name, dead set on really, they really believed that what their positioning would resonate with their audience. And the research that we conducted unequivocally showed that there was no resonance at all for the brand name. There was actual people really had a negative reaction to the brand name. They did not resonate with the concept. There was a strong foundation there. And so what we ended up doing from the research is we realized we had to completely shift the positioning. It didn't change the product at all. The product was the same, but how we spoke about the product and the reason behind the product, the own selling proposition, all of that changed. And the shock, of course, for them was seeing the reaction to the name as well. So justifying the feasibility of whether your target audience is large enough is you have to, I mean, you can do that kind of, there's a lot of, we call it finger in the air assumptions you can make, and you can do the math. How many people live in this country? Okay, I'm only targeting women. How does that cut me down to? I'm only targeting women of this, these nationalities. What does that cut me down to? What is my addressable market? You can do that math alone, but when you're actually looking to verify whether your concept is valuable to your audience, I really recommend using an agency because they will know how to write the questions so that they're not leading questions, which is really important because you can write questions in a way to say, yeah, I want to do that, but not understanding the psychology behind how people read questions and how they answer them. And, usually when we do research, we end up, if we create our own surveys, we send them out to 10 of our friends, 20 of our friends, ask them to send them out to 20 of their friends. But again, that creates what I told you before, which is called the echo chamber. And you're just hearing the same opinion of a lot of people who sound like you, but not necessarily are large enough of a market. So don't focus necessarily on the largest research agencies, but do look around for ones that may be within your budget.
My one other question that was put in the box was, if they don't have money for a branding strategy, but maybe a little bit of budget, is there a certain area of the branding strategy that maybe they could focus on and hire a consultant for to do it and then do the other aspects themselves? What would be the most important areas?
I mean, I think if you work with someone to build your brand positioning statement, that's going to cover a huge chunk of the actual work that you would do in a brand strategy, because you'll look at the target audience, you'll look at the frame of reference, you'll look at the own selling proposition, and you look at the reason to believe. I mean, you could also do a lot of this work on your own and then hire a brand strategist in a one-on-one consultation basis as a soundboard. So similar to what we were doing here, where you tell the person what you're thinking and they give you their opinion on it. So there's different ways to work. You can hire people for smaller versions of the work, but I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot of things you could do at home and then kind of get verification from a professional that way, in a one-on-one way.
Maya, what do you think about your brand in Arabic versus English? And if you, for example, if you're building a brand, then one person has asked, is it better to have the same spelling in English or to do a translation?
The question of transliteration or translation. It really depends on who your main audience is. So is your main audience English speaking or Arabic speaking? And based on that, should be the most understandable version of your name should be the language that the people that will come to you speak. So if they're mostly Arabic speaking, start from Arabic and work towards English. A lot of mistake is that because we are English speakers potentially, or that's the language we're more comfortable in, we start with English and then we translate or transliterate, and it doesn't connect with our audience if they're mainly Arabic speakers. The transliteration versus translation, it depends on how important is it for us for the name to be the same. So for example, in the example of Kareem means generous in Arabic, but it was a play on words in English because it was car, right? So it served the purpose of, you can use it in Arabic because it's an Arabic word. In English, it's easy to say, and it actually has a meaning. So you have to be very mindful of the duality there. Another example is of the opposite is Pan Emirates, the furniture shop. Pan Emirates, in Arabic, it's called Hawl al-Imarat. So they want to make sure that people who know them know that A, this is a UAE-based brand, B, that they are located all over the UAE. So writing ban, which would be the transliteration, doesn't mean anything. So there's a lot of factors to think. There's no one answer there. It really depends on what your name is in English. How does it transliterate and translate to Arabic? And does that give the same impression to your consumers that you want all your touch points to give?
Excellent. Maya, lots of questions about cost and how people can do that if they don't have big budgets. I've seen several questions pretty much asking the same thing, saying, you know, with this type of business, we don't have the budget, we can't hire somebody. How do we do it? Or how do we find somebody who can work on this with us to give us something that we need?
So as I mentioned, one-on-one consultations can help a lot. It can be a lot more affordable than hiring someone to completely do the strategy for you. There are also usually, sometimes you can find, if you keep an eye out, there's like group workshops that you can work on. Like, for example, I've done in the past group workshops where we actually would create a bulk of your strategy in multiple days with a small group of people. So things like that. And then also you can look at the framework of a brand strategy online. You can do some research yourself, try to create, try to do the work, bootstrap the work. If you're really, really conscious about funds, that would be the way to do it. However, again, it's really important that you do get the verification or the sounding board from an expert, whether it's just buying 3 hours of their time, because they're going to point out things that you wouldn't have noticed, and they're going to challenge you on things that you might be really, really connected to, but actually don't benefit you in any way. So even if you work on this on your own, that's the best way to bootstrap. I would still require, like, look to invest in a few hours of somebody's time to look over your work and really help you as a sounding board. And that can be, I mean, most brand strategists their hourly would be anything between, on the low end, 350 dirhams an hour, and on the high end, you know, multiple thousand dirhams an hour. So you can find somebody within your budget for sure.
Excellent. Okay. I hear this question all the time. How do you brainstorm the name of a company? How do you come up with a name for a company? Oh, tough ones. Every entrepreneur experiences this nemesis as you go and set up your company.
It's funny because some people, it's a lightning bolt and it just comes to them, and it's just, they're so connected with the name, and the name is just, it's the first thing they can figure out. And then other people and other companies, it's just so difficult. So we actually, we do brand naming as part of our services. And the process that we follow is that in the session, first of all, the brand strategy coming first is excellent. So if you have the time to do that, unfortunately, a lot of people don't have the time to do that because they have to register trade licenses, they have to register trademark names, they have to do a bunch of things that are linked to the name. But if you have the time to work on the brand strategy first, that's excellent, because that's always input for the name. Because then what we do is we take away keywords from the brand strategy, we throw them up on a board. We look at all these keywords and we start thinking, what is some imagery? What are some concepts? What are some things that evoke these keywords? Keywords from your brand strategy that you pick up on are things like your values. You know, if transparency and honesty are like your number one. I mean, look at Jessica Alba's The Honest Company. You can't get more blunt than that, right? That's really on the nose. And because she wanted to be transparent on the nose with what she was doing. It depends on, so you put all those words up, you start thinking, brainstorming stories, anecdotes, you know, things like that. I had a client who really loved Roman and Greek mythology. So he really was focused on bringing some of that into the work, even though it was completely irrelevant to what we were doing. It just meant a lot to him. It's also important to think about what's the story behind the name. So sometimes it sounds really nice, but it doesn't have a story. And people are going to ask you if it's not really clear where the name comes from, like something like Kids App, which is an app for kids. I think that's really straightforward. But when people are going to ask you about the name of your company, how did you come up with that? How did you reach that? You have to have a story that makes sense. So the starting point, if you're brainstorming, is from the brand strategy. Put those words up on a board, have a look at them, think about imagery that can communicate that. You know, if it's talking, again, transparency, a clear glass pane window, rain, ice, things that would communicate that. Think about that.
Excellent.
I think,
Ladies,
Jen, we have
can
time
I-
for two. Yeah, sorry, go
I
ahead.
think we have time maybe for one or two more questions. I was just going to say, if you haven't completed the poll, could I please ask you just to fill that in? It would mean a lot just so we can get this information and make sure that the workshops that we're delivering for you are really resonating. So that would help from our perspective. I'm just trying to see if there's not really anything else in the chat, but I know Minnie has had her hand raised for a while. Minnie, do you still have a question? Or did you want to ask something? Or is there anybody else, if you want, we're a smaller group now. If there's anybody, if you do want to speak, maybe just raise your hand and we can ask you to unmute. Don't everybody unmute at once. But if there's, Hathal, do you want to unmute yourself quickly and ask Maya your question?
Yes, thank you, Jennifer, and hi, Maya.
Hi.
Hi, sorry I can't turn my video on. I'm not in the right place. But thank you for this very helpful presentation. My question for you is, as I was working for my brand positioning statement, I have a bit of it is a bit challenging because what I do is I offer women and kids a second chance at life, in the sense that I help them overcome their chronic illness through very precise programs that are based on yoga. So when I'm drafting this brand positioning statement and I'm developing the OSP, I find that it's very difficult to specify my target audience. Like, do I just put them together like women and kids? Should I be specific, career-oriented women and kids? And how do I translate this healing aspect of yoga, which people are less familiar with compared to the fitness aspect of it? If you have any insights, that would be very helpful. And my company's name is Tamarind Leaf Yoga.
Great. I think that's a wonderful mission, first of all, and vision to be helping people get a second chance at life. So there's a couple of things that you said there that were really interesting to me. And when it comes to target audience, a lot of people think about demographic. So they think about nationality, age, etc., gender. But much more powerful than that is linking people by their psychographics, which is their attitudes, their feelings, what they believe, because me as a Lebanese woman who's 35, I could be standing next to a Lebanese woman who's 35, and we have completely different attitudes to the world. There may be some overlap, but it is incredibly a broad brush if you consider that every 35-year-old Lebanese woman thinks the same. So you added a word like career-oriented into your thinking, into your question. You can have career-oriented women, but you can't have career-oriented children, really. So the question is, what you have to look at is, what is the golden thread that ties together all of your audience? So what is the motivation that they have? In the Disney one, it was the young and the young at heart. So it was youthfulness. It was that really like connection to your childhood. For people, it could be their, for the sustainability example, it's people who care about the environment regardless of their age. So for you, I mean, I don't know if gender is really important, if it has to be women, but it could be people who are seeking a second chance at life, people who are overcoming chronic illness, people who are, so you could, instead of specifying women and children, you could say for people who are, and then fill in the blank there. What do all of these people have in common? And that commonality is much more powerful than saying for people of this age group, or for people of this gender, or for people of this nationality.
Perfect. That makes a big difference, because I do help men as well, but it's always difficult to merge everybody into one box. But I think the way you presented it, and I will find that golden thread. Thank you so much, Maya.
You're welcome. Okay, one more question, Jen, please, if we have one.
Yeah, we haven't really. There's just one comment that somebody said that once you decide on your brand name, to go and register your domain name ASAP, so you have a domain name that you can use.
So that's actually something you do while you're choosing your brand name, especially if being online is a huge part of your business. So yeah. For example, if you are an e-commerce company, that is the first and foremost thing you should be checking. And it is really hard because people are sitting on goldmine domain names and trying to hold them hostage. So look at alternative spellings, look at action URLs as well. So I think Female Fusion, for example, where Jen is part of, Female Fusion Works is a big part of how their handle online, but it works like we work, you know. So things like that you can think of, but if you can stick as closely to your name as possible, that's important. So it is not a secondary thing you do. It is part of the actual naming process to go look on the digital presence, social media handles. Also Google it. If there's a really strong company with a similar name and you're going to be stuck at the bottom. I had a client who wanted to use a stone name because a lot of her work is with stone, and she wanted to use a stone name as her name, a particular stone. And then when we Googled it, there were hundreds and hundreds of pages just explaining what that stone was. And I just said to her, you're going to be fighting an uphill battle if you want to start showing up in Google ranking high. So let's just at least adapt the name a little bit so that it's more differentiated.
Yeah, agreed. Well, I think that's it. We're getting lots of love being thrown your way, and everybody's saying thank you so much.
Thank you.
One of the best presentations they've attended. Thank you. Everybody's absolutely loved it. So Maya, I've loved it as well. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and your insight with everybody. It's so important that we have experts like yourself who can come here and just very honestly share your experience to help people grow in business.
Yes, absolutely. And if I could leave that with a note, then actually is that it's really important. I'm a really big advocate of female networking groups and female groups as well. And if we can avoid gatekeeping as much as possible between each other, it's actually really important. So if you can help somebody else by sharing things about how do you come to your rates? How did you, where are your suppliers? Things that don't impede on you growing, please do. It's really helpful. And that's as well how we all grow together.
And that's the thing that, well, I'm big on saying that as well, is that we have to support each other, no matter if we're just starting out or we've been in business for a number of years. We are so much stronger if we're together. Even, if you're at a networking event and there's somebody else who's in a similar space as you, you're going to find out actually that there's a lot more opportunities for collaboration and ways to support each other and ways to grow your business. So do support each other, and we love you coming to all of these events, and we are all stronger together. So thank you so much for your time today, and thank you, Maya, for your support, and thank you to UN Women and NAMA Women Advancement Establishment for making today possible. Have a wonderful afternoon, everyone, and we'll see you soon.
See you.
Bye.